Hello again, and this is Chad Shears. I am the founder and creator of the Human Manual and uh, growing up in the wilds of suburbia. Today's episode is with Mr. Alex Wagner. He's the accountant. He's actually my personal accountant as well, and he's a lot of things. So he's got a lot of foresight and wisdom whenever it comes to starting businesses. And today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the pitfalls that people have starting a business, as well as uh, some of the more fun things that we can get involved with after we get some of the fears out of the way. So with that, we've got Mr. Alex Wagner on the line. So Alex, would you like to say anything other than what I've said about your introduction? I know it was like basically 3-word introduction.
Just thank you for allowing me to be on your show here and to contribute, and it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, Alex. So one of the most intimidating things whenever I talk to people, because I've been in business for myself for for a while now, almost a decade, and I know a lot of the stuff was there was a great deal of fear in the very beginning getting started. So for me, I was definitely afraid of the IRS, and getting audited, and then having, just being penalized, whether steeply financial, feed, or potentially going to jail, because there's a lot of fears that when we don't know something, we fear what could be on the other side. So
Yeah, and for a little business starting up, I say little because most people start small. Those fears are usually not even real. The IRS really doesn't care about people starting up, in the small mode, but it drives it because it's so prevalent to worry about the IRS. Now, I'm not obviously talking about not keeping some, records or not being prudent in following tax law and those things, but most times you don't have to get serious about that until you have your business really running, because that energy and fear gets drained by it drains you from your primary focus, because first year business, that their accounting can be put together pretty simply unless they start larger. And that's one of the pitfalls I see is people worry about so many things that aren't really relevant that first year. That first year is all about motivation to get out and drum up business, you
yeah.
know, and to get your message together and to get out and to get revenue coming in. Then come back, start being more concerned about the tax side of it.
Mm. That actually brings up a good deal of like the stuff that I like to talk about whenever it comes to human development and some of the areas of maturity. And we all have we all have our own degree of. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's
Still
perfect.
managing my wonderful dogs here. Uh, yeah, we do have a specific amount of energy that we can allocate to things, and whenever that energy gets taxed, whatever it is, so fear is taxing that energy. It's like a leech on that energy. And if it gets to the point that it overcomes how much excitement you have for starting your business, it'll typically cause people to sit down, rather than to take action or do something for themselves, and kind of pushes them or bullies them back into their old jobs or their old mindsets. Uh, so
Yeah. I've going on 25 years here working with small businesses and owning a couple myself, having successes and failures. And at a national mastermind group once went to, it's like come up with your name, build a simple 5-page website, and get out there. And it seems like I agree with that. The more I'm doing this, there's so much overthinking, over planning that people go into with all that energy, and as soon as you hit the road and start adding clients or customers, it all shifts instantly in many ways, because then all of a sudden you have reality and you're like, wow, why'd I worry? I myself spent thousands on things that I didn't need to once I got really rolling, you know and then it came
yeah,
down to what works versus all the theories and all the ideas and all the planning.
you know,
I come from a point is generate revenue. A business doesn't start in my eyes when I meet someone until they get their first sale.
hmm,
It's something about that first time another human being pays for whatever you're selling, it shifts it to a different level. So
yeah,
I mean, I honestly, and I come from a unique perspective, but I would say just get your first sale. And then even before you even had a website, just make sure however you can get your first sale going and build that reality of money, people paying you and seeing value in what you provide.
Yeah, I see that. It's actually what comes to mind. I apologize. It's an early morning podcast here or video. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever. What comes to mind is actually like there's a lot of people that sit around and fantasize based off of their frustration. You're like sitting at their job and they're like, I can't stand working here. I hate this place, or I can't wait. I'm just going to start my own company and be done with this, or whatever. Right? There's like this fantasy, this oasis of an idea that's going to save them from all of their problems, right? And they don't realize like what running your own business actually entails. Now, it's not to completely push people away from the idea of running their own companies, but more of giving them more of insight on running their own company, because the fantasy won't live up to the reality of it. Even if everything turns out to be this wonderful idea, because it's all dependent on where they're coming from, and almost everyone fantasizes relief from pressure, the certain current circumstances. They all try to get away from that, and they end up with like this unbelievably disappointing experience that whenever they said it, these big gates didn't open up and these chariots ride out and pick them up and then whisk them off into the rest of their life, where they don't have to struggle or challenged or have to worry about running all the hardships of running a business. It's just the idea of getting away from this ego driven, negatively ego driven, boss, or whatever their problem may be, or their, crappy working conditions. And they just see like that thing being the oasis in the desert kind of concept, not realizing it's most of the time it's a mirage.
Yeah,
Well,
there definitely is a fantasy side of it. And a perspective I always tell people, after so many years and watching it myself and others, is it's personal growth. It's jumping into the unknown. It's learning to wear many hats, and learning many different little skills. In many ways, I'll give an example. I met an accountant once that was major accountant in a big company, and he managed one line item across the country of utility expense, and that's what a big corporate, puts them in a box. But an accountant or a business owner has to wear all the hats. So in many ways, a little business owner is much more dynamic than someone in a corporation, because their job is very controlled, specific, specialized. But a small business owner starting up is learning how to deal with people, manage cash flow, figure out a marketing strategy, networking, got to worry about accounting and tax. But I always say take emphasis off that in the beginning, because until you have enough revenue coming in, there's not really that big worry right then, other than tracking what's really needed to be tracked so you're effective in seeing what works and what doesn't work. And then the learning process comes in. I mean, you're going to have challenges. There's no doubt. And that's why many people, I guess the perspective to come from is it's a growth. Do you really want the growth of owning your own business too? Because
uh,
as you know, and me, there is a lot of unknown and a lot of things that happen, and you have to be able to dance with that. And then when you have setbacks, you just have to come back and see it as a lesson and not see it as it's bad. It's just a learning process. And I think that's where some people give up and quit. And I always say, it's about freedom, passion, and you wanting to get more out of yourself and other people too. And that's why I
yeah,
don't think it is for everyone.
right. Well, it's possible to make working in a small business for anyone, or working in entrepreneurship for anyone. Because even entrepreneurs, once they grow to a certain level, they will need employees. And most of the time, in my experience, these employees need to be a little more dynamic than, let's say, like the franchise concept of McDonald's, where you're the fry cook and that's what you do, and you are the fry cook because it's easier to replace you if you're not that. Um,
All right. Now, there's a really good thing as someone that started out, as a one person, then a couple part-time employees, then started another company and got up to 10 people. There's definitely a major shift when you go from like a 1-2 person operation up to 5 plus. At that point, you're dealing with a whole different creature, I would say. your delegation skills that and you know, again, you got control issues coming up with giving up. And then the biggest thing I see in going from level 1 to level 2, I would say, to where you're more of a rich dad, what's his name, used to say, you're self-employed versus a business owner.
Richard
Yeah.
Kiyosaki.
You know, yeah, he used to say, and I love this distinction, you know, you're self-employed when you're basically doing the work, but when you finally are creating a system where you're not key to the generation of the revenue, you then become a business owner.
Yeah.
And at that state, what I notice is, and I've made the mistakes, and that's why I know them so well, is you start hiring people that you feel comfortable with and you have relationships with, because you want trust, right? But then you get relationships come in, and then if they don't live up to it, you got to you're dealing with a friend, or you're dealing with someone, that you don't want to hurt their feelings, or so at some level you have to detach some of the emotion to get to that second level of looking for the right people, and not people you like, or that makes it more fun,
Yeah.
and that's a hard shift to make. But it's a big jump from self-employed to business owner.
Yeah, I actually agree greatly. It's even in my own experience whenever I was running a physical or personal training company, predominantly, and being my sole income, and then working on developing trainers to work with me. And I noticed a lot of challenges that the only time a challenge really shows up is when we seem to lack guidance or experience. Or challenges still show up, but it's different. Like a defeating challenge shows up whenever you don't have the experience to back it up. It's possible to defeat you, versus you come across a challenge you're familiar with going through, and you know how to work your way through it. It's just something that's not pleasant for you. So there's different types of challenges. But what I find is beneficial, at least if we could add in like some more like content for benefit to be beneficial for the viewers, is what would you say would be the importance of training whenever you're a small business owner or first-time business owner? Where would you put the emphasis on? They are focusing on making money, but they don't realize that also training is necessary. And the longer they go without that training, the more challenging it's going to be a business owner. And it's likely the thing that will put them out of business. What would you say as far as that's concerned?
I've got great examples over my career. When I was a staff accountant or accounting manager in a CPA law firm, I was always pushing for like software training back when Excel and Word were just starting to be popular. And, and even QuickBooks, and people like, I don't want to spend it. But, if you look at the stats, sorry, something popped up on my phone here, is, $100 3-hour training probably saved 50 to 100 hours of employee time over the year in software program, because all of a sudden you get those few key things you weren't doing. That's one example. A lot of people want to skip the cost of training because they see it as a cost, not an investment. They don't see the value is you're always going to get back much more in the right training. Obviously there's a lot of people pitching training out there, and there's a lot of useless trainings, but the right training that can set up the right systems and give people the best way to do things is going to pay off multiple times.
And it's
a number one thing is business owners get a little scared with their cash, and the best investment is either getting your products out there and then making sure you're delivering the product in the right, best, most efficient manner. And that usually involves bringing in someone who's an expert in the various things you need to run your business. And there's always the ego that comes in. I'm the business owner. I know it better. And I've felt this the hard way. And people telling me things when I was growing, and, I'm thinking I got this figured out. And I think humbleness becomes a big part of growing the business to the next level, because you have to be willing to really look at, am I doing it the best way? And getting multiple opinions and insight, and then really looking at it, and then looking at what works, not what my opinion is or what I think I can do. And of course there's innovation mixed in. Sometimes what works can be improved, but I see a lot of people cancel out good advice just because of their own ego, thinking they have it figured out. Because you have a business owner is very creative, and they're very interested to do it their way, but there's a balance of what really works plus what your little spice or shift on it is going to be.
Yeah. That also brings to mind so many other aspects. Like, growing through my business was, there was a lot of times there was challenges. And most of the time when there was a challenge, it was really me getting in my own way, being righteous about what I don't want to do, or, uh, like in the personal training environment, before I fully transitioned into the holistic concept, was, there was some stuff where I'm like, man, those people are just doing some really stupid shit. Like they're
Yeah.
teaching these people, like, I was completely against the Julian Michaels movement, and I'm still not a fan of Julian Michaels, nor so many other, like P90X and all the rest of that. I'm still not a fan of those. But that's not really the purpose of this particular show. But yeah, so aside from that, because that's to add to your point, but what I've also found is sometimes people will bring you advice you're not ready for. Like you need to hear it, but it's not the kind of advice, like it's like a level 5 kind of advice, and you're at a level 1. It doesn't mean that it's non-valuable. It's just you can't see how well that advice is or how effective it is. So you leave it. Like you're like, okay, well, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't work, and you may not have the wherewithal to last the 5 years, or till you develop to that stage that you could actually implement that advice. It's like me telling somebody, going from the personal trainer side of things, like how to bench 350 pounds safely without damaging their shoulders, and they're still struggling to put up 125 pounds, right? Like everything that I would work on that person doing a really excessively heavy bench. By the way, I don't really push for that type of direction, but using it as an example in this is, that person may say, oh, that's all great and it's interesting, but that's not getting me past my 125 issue. It's not getting me where I need to be now. So it's not effective at the moment. So how does the witness or the person hearing the information take it? Right. So for me, what I see as a solution is, being able to utilize people like you as a mentorship direction, and how to cultivate. But it's not just that, right? You're really good at the business context as far as the accounting side and getting a business started, dealing with the IRS and all of that. But then there's the other aspects, like, would you be able to take them through all the nuances of being a contractor? From the tax side and the accounting side, yes. But from the business side of being able to, do every bit of the repair work or new home build out or new building build out, that a contractor would do, wouldn't be the direction you would be in, right? You see, like, so the purpose of the value of mentorship, or developing yourself and to learn how to want to learn, right? Rather than being stuck in, I'll figure it out, I'm good enough, and I'll do it my way. Your way is your most effective, but it's not the most effective. Right.
No, and it's a balance, because there's times I was told to do something I did know better, and there's times I thought I knew better and it was totally wrong.
Right.
I've had both experiences where I undersold my own opinion,
Right.
right? And then I was like, man, I was right. There was some expert that was Mr. Theory or whatever, and then there was just practical advice, like when to cut your losses, or when to fire someone, or when to get, and then there's that not wanting to let go issue. When you do
Mm-hmm.
make a mistake, or you do have a correction, you don't want to let go. The cut the, fish or cut bait. It's so true. It pops up a lot. And again, you're creating something you're very possessive of. So then you're also like, this is my baby, I'm not going to touch it. But the reality is, and that's why business works to develop you, is you have cash flow, which is the ultimate accountability tool. When cash doesn't come in, you will do what you don't want to do, and or you lose cash, you will do what you don't want to do. In the end, cash is the ultimate accountability tool. It really is. And the other side of that is the risk. Don't take, you need to be a risk taker, but you take too much risk, then you get yourself out there and you're learning. And then you look back on some of my failure lessons, is I can see where I had good people telling me, but I had done so. My issue was I had helped so many businesses and I had experienced so much. I was thinking, there's no way these people know more than me on this. And it was just basic stuff. When I look back, I was just ignoring basic fundamentals, and there was arrogance that always gets in the way.
Right.
And
No.
focus. That's the other part. the focus on what works and keep it running in a machine until you're very stable, and that's where some people get caught up.
Yeah. You know what I just really see being extremely beneficial is a step-by-step process. It's obviously has to be catered to the individual to an extent, so they don't feel like it's something that's not theirs. But at the same time, it's not completely catered so that it's enabling the person. Like even for me, working with people, or whenever I was doing, solely just doing the personal training stuff or the holistic training, is I never approached a person as they were the person I just worked with before them, and it was always very very created and very intentionally created for the other in person, so that they understood where they needed to go and they were never lost, as far as being part of the program. And I see the same thing. It's like business fitness, if you will. Like, well, how fit is your business? Is it adaptable for change? Is it capable of surviving hardships? Oh, I would really enjoy having another video, obviously, in doing a little bit more, creating a little bit more how-tos for people moving forward. So I'd like to do another video with you. We're running out of time. I've got about 2 minutes left with you. Is there anything you'd like to share in closing?
In starting a business, it's the biggest thing I come to is you got to have passion, and you got to know major in the majors and don't major in the minors. And setting your ego aside to do what works, but also doing what lights you up enough to overcome the resistance and never give up.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Now, of course, I would add in, seek mentorship, seek guidance.
Oh yes, absolutely.
It's always out there. And my final comment on this is, if you don't have that kind of training available, don't make your entire life depend on your company, because that's also something we didn't get a chance to talk about. Like, when should you expect to be able to draw money from your company? Most people don't realize when you start a company, you don't get a paycheck until that company makes all the money it needs to cover its expenses, and then it might be able to give you a few Tic Tacs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, don't rush pulling money out. You'll screw yourself up.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we'll discuss that in a future episode, one that we actually have a little bit more time, and we'll put together some how-tos for people to kind of walk them through some of the joys of business, and also how to make some of the hardships more pleasant and enjoyable, because you know how to reestablish the cognitive viewpoint on that hardship. So, Alex, you've been a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to another episode with you and several in the future. With that, ladies and gentlemen, this was Alex Wagner, the awesome friend of mine, as well as my tax guy, my accountant. So with that, this is Chad Everett Broshears, the founder and creator of the whole Human Manual and Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia series that you're watching now. Thank you very much. We look forward to your comments. Alex, if you wish to be reached, is there anything that we can reach you by?
Yeah, you can call me at 813-334-6865 or email me at alex@wagnercompany.net.
Gotcha. Well, thank you very much, Alex, and have a great day, my friend.
You too. Have a wonderful day, Chad. Thank you.
And thanks for being on the show.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.